I'm trying to speedrun being the first person to make like an in-depth review on this new jet, so I just took a couple of clips of all the things that I thought would be pretty important to go over with this thing. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. The first thing that you should notice with this new jet is that the VTOL is extremely different from the Hydra VTOL, so you're not really going to do really complex VTOL maneuvers with this thing in comparison to the Hydra. Including the fact that the cannons are not that good, you really don't want to go into VTOL often, if at all, in a dogfight. So if it were me and you were in a dogfight, I would just stay away from using VTOL as much as possible unless they are going extremely slow. Then maybe you could use it to maybe cut them off. Here I am trying to get it to fly backwards after switching out of VTOL mode, and as you can see, it is completely impossible to do. Unless you are already like pretty much in the standard position for flying backwards, then you can do it. But if you're in VTOL mode and you're flat and you want to go into backwards real quick, you cannot do that. You can still go upside down and turn on VTOL to swing it around though. Here's just me showing off how well the off-the-radar works whenever you're trying to combat merge someone. In fact, it's so good you can basically combat merge 2 people in one go, because it's just simple as that. I mean, shoot the guy behind him, shoot the guy in front of him, easy peasy, you're done. It's that good. Now I did overshoot this guy, and almost crash into him. But as you can see, it didn't last very long because I got right behind him and shot him down soon after that. Here I am testing the missiles on another Raiju jet, and I'm basically just trying to see here if tracking on the missiles are any better, or if the rebound from missing is any different. And from what I can tell, the only difference is the rebound. It can miss fairly badly and still keep track of the target, but even then, since the tracking is pretty terrible, that does not matter. The cannons are more or less just rogue cannons, as you can see from me shooting the Avenger here. It can strip almost all of the control panels off of any plane pretty quickly. The only issue is it doesn't really do any damage, so if you're going against a pyro in this thing, you might lose, is basically what I'm trying to say here. I would avoid trying to go against a pyro in one of these. Here's the moment of truth for most free mode tryhards, is whether or not this jet can use thermal. And as you can see here, it can very easily use thermal, as every other jet. Here's a pretty weird trick you can show off to your friends. Basically, you go to VTOL, you try to turn left as much as possible while holding right trigger, and whenever you get about maybe halfway turned, you just hold left trigger and you basically do a full loop-de-loop while in VTOL. Now here's the real test, whether or not it does well in dogfights. And this dogfight with me in the B-11 versus the other Raiju is pretty disappointing, because since I'm able to take advantage of overshoots really easily, I just cut him off first turn and he's dead. He had no way of countering that whatsoever. So if you're really good in the B-11, they can't do anything to you. Here's a demonstration of what the missiles kind of look like whenever they're tracking an aircraft. And as you can see from what I was saying before, they'll miss almost all the time whenever it comes to tracking. But for some reason, they'll still try and hit again even after missing pretty badly on the target. But this is different whenever it comes to the Mark II. Now for the Mark II, or any other very small vehicle that's going pretty slow, if it misses, it misses. It's not going to turn around. It's not even going to attempt to. It's just going to fly right by. And as you can see here, he starts holding right bumper, and he can dodge missiles that way. The missiles just fly right over him, and he's not even moving because he's holding right bumper and slowly going downward. So yeah, I would not rely on the missiles to try and shoot down a Mark II any day of the week. And here's how it fares against a B-11. Keep in mind here that I am probably quite better than the other pilot in this video. If I do run into someone who is of equal skill, then I'll try and make an updated video for equal skilled pilots on what that would kind of look like. But if you're better and they're worse, then most likely you'll win pretty easily with this thing. It's not going to be like the Mogul or like the Nakota where it's actually a challenge. As long as you're smart and you play it smart, you'll win almost all of your dogfights with this pretty easily. I would say that if you're just using this to just be a nuisance and combat merge some random fool that has no idea you're right behind them, I would use that. Easy peasy, right? But if you're bad at piloting, don't use this, dude. If you want to dogfight someone and you know they're good, you don't want to use this, because this is actually one of the most complex vehicles I think I've ever seen. Maybe even more complex than the Starling, if I'm being honest, because there's so many things that can just go wrong whenever you're using this. It's super fast. You can overshoot on accident. There's VTOL. You can take advantage of that if you ever find the position of taking advantage of it. And there's just a bunch of acceleration, and there's a lot of turn radius. So you can crash pretty easily with this thing if you don't know what you're doing. So, is this new jet better than the Akula? Yes, by quite a lot actually. But is it better than the Akula at getting score on someone? I would not say so, because the jet version for the stealth is super loud and they'll hear you coming pretty quickly, but for the Akula, you can sneak up right on them. So if you plan on sneaking up on someone that's on the ground, I would avoid using the jet because it's going to give you away pretty quickly. It's going to be hard to stay low and not be seen. It's going to be hard to not be heard too. So use the Akula if you're going after some random dude that's just chilling, or a tryhard that's just chilling. Maybe they're at the beach. But if you're trying to go after someone that's on the ground, don't use the Raiju, dude. They're going to see you, and they're going to kill you pretty quickly. So what is the verdict? I would say the verdict is, if you're using this thing to go combat merge some dude that has no clue that you're in a Raiju and about to beat the shit out of him, use it by all means. But if you're going to dogfight someone, I would be a little bit careful on who it is you're targeting, because if they're better than you and they're in a B-11, they're going to destroy you pretty quickly, because all it takes is one bad overshoot or one overturn, and they can cut you off in an instant. You're not even going to realize what's happening. So steer clear of it if you're in like a big old dogfight lobby, because they're just going to clown on you, basically. But if you're just going to take on some random guy that has no idea what's about to happen to him, then I would go ahead and use the Raiju instead of the B-11 or Laser or Hydra, because, well, the Laser and Hydra are completely screwed now when it comes to combat merging, which I'm actually really happy about, believe it or not.